In today's video, we're going to discuss the latest updates on the William Nylander situation with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It appears as though it's going to be a bridge deal or a trade. We'll discuss both scenarios coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top here, we have some additional updates on the William Nylander situation with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the contract stalemate that they've been going through here since the summertime. The latest information we're discussing here today comes from Chris Johnson of Sportsnet, which came up on Saturday headlines on the weekend here on a Hockey Night in Canada. Now, he's indicated that based on the information he has, it appears as though the odds of William Nylander and the Toronto Maple Leafs coming to a long-term deal are all but gone. That appears to be pretty much non-existent and unlikely to happen at this point in time. It appears as though the gap in money between the Nylander camp and the Maple Leafs are just too big to bridge here, and that it's just not likely going to happen. It is now believed they are looking at a shorter-term bridge type of contract to kind of get things settled. And if that doesn't go well here over the next little while, probably in the next week or two, then the odds of the Leafs exploring a trade are, certainly going to increase that much more and become much more likely. During the Saturday headlines discussion around William Nylander, it was brought up as well that, Kyle Dubas really needs to make sure he wins this battle here and gets the right deal for the Toronto Maple Leafs, as he's got even bigger contracts coming up here in the short term that he's going to have to deal with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, and they need to make sure they get the right deal in place for the team to try to keep as much of this team together as possible here for the long haul. It's been reported before that if William Nylander and the Toronto Maple Leafs come to an agreement on a short-term bridge type of contract, that he's probably looking at somewhere in the $4 to $5 million range on somewhere between 2, 3, maybe 4 years at most. So hard to say here. Now, obviously, William Nylander's losing money day by day as each day goes by here due to a lack of contract. William Nylander could look to recoup some of that money once his contract situation is finally settled, regardless if it's with the Leafs or he's traded and ends up elsewhere or whatever happens. Either way, be structured so that the bonus payments are heavy and less than salary here so that he can get more money up front to kind of recoup a lot of what he's lost here so far this season. Now, it's been reported he could look to possibly play in the SHL in Sweden or possibly in the KHL as well. The main issue with either of those situations is obviously he's not going to make as much money, but more than that is any team who signs him are not going to want to give him a contract with a clause that he can get out to go back to the NHL during the season. They're going to want a commitment for the remainder of the full season, which at this point he's probably reluctant to give, seeing as I'm sure he prefers to play in the NHL, preferably with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was reported as well last night at the Calgary Flames New York Rangers game that Kyle Dubas was spotted at this game, and it's also been confirmed that William Nylander's agent, Louis Gross, was also confirmed to be at this game as well. Whenever you see out-of-town GMs show up at games like that, there's always speculation. Sometimes there's absolutely nothing to it. You have to remember as well, sometimes these other general managers just like to take in games when they're in town for other business or whatnot. So it's really hard to say what was accomplished here or what the main purpose of this visit was. However, with both parties being confirmed to be in attendance, I think it's probably safe to say that those two are likely meeting to discuss contract. Now, Louis Gross is also the agent for Calgary Flames forward Johnny Gaudreau, so there's always possible he could have been there to possibly meet with him. Louis Gross also, I believe, lives in the New York area. I think he lives in Manhattan, so he's not too far from the game either. So there's all kinds of reasons that could have went down here. So, in these types of situations, when people like this are seen at the games, there's going to be speculation. There very well may be nothing to it at all, but it does seem kind of skeptical here at best that both parties were in attendance, so I think it's probably safe to say they were discussing contract. Now, to fuel the fire here a little bit more, as there was a lot of scouts showed up at the Toronto-Pittsburgh game a few days prior to that, and a couple of them were from the New York Rangers. So I know I've seen some speculation hovering online about a potential Leafs-Rangers trade. Could, maybe the Rangers be scouting the Leafs, trying to work out a deal to obtain William Nylander? I suppose it's possible. I'm not going to say that they're not, because I really don't have any way to confirm or deny that. But at the same time, teams are always looking to make deals and upgrade their teams, and they could have been looking at players on the Penguins too, which is, probably less likely. But you just never know what these guys are doing. Scouts are all over the league all the time, checking things out, working for their teams, and it's really hard to say. So I'm not going to add any speculation here to fuel the fire any further, because we really don't know the nature of everything that went down. But the least I can tell you that it's being speculated here that the Rangers and Leafs might be talking, but We really don't know that at all. I'm sure if the Toronto Maple Leafs do go down the trade route for William Nylander, there's going to be all kinds of interested parties. The main, part of this that's probably going to scare off some teams, though, is the fact that the Leafs and Nylander have been unable to come to terms on a contract that, he very well might price himself out of a lot of other teams as well, based on what he's looking for. So hard to say how many teams would be out there that'd be willing to take on the kind of contract that he wants and would also be willing to give it to him. I know I've seen reports from some other hockey insiders saying that they kind of polled around other rival GMs around the NHL, and many of them felt that Nylander was asking for too much, if it was indeed true that he was looking for $8+ million on a longer term contract. But then again, a lot of that is speculation and hearsay too. So it's really hard to say what happens here with William Nylander. All we know at this point is that it appears as though the information from hockey insiders is that it's going to be a bridge deal or a trade, and that this next week here is a critical time for the Leafs and Nylander to get something done. The more time that passes by here, the longer it's going to take to get Nylander into a lineup. And as we know, if he doesn't sign by December the 1st, then he's not eligible to play at all during the 18-19 season. So even though there is technically plenty of time, by the time an agreement comes to be, he gets practicing with the team, gets into the lineup, enough time is ticking away here that they really need to come to a resolution here sooner than later. And I'm sure all parties involved would love to have that happen. What the outcome is, we really don't know at this point. But I think it's safe to say anytime you see Kyle Dubas, in another building or talking to anybody else, or if Nylander's spotted anywheres or whatnot, that there's going to be speculation. That's just the nature of people, and that's just the nature of how things go with so much uncertainty. It's not really clear yet if there was any progress made when Dubas went over to meet with Nylander over in Switzerland. It was more of an opportunity, I think, for them to kind of clear the air and kind of, give the team's position and help him understand why, from their side, things might appear to be difficult and what he's looking for them to be able to accommodate at least. So we'll see what happens here. There's all kinds of speculation on the Nylander front, but that is the latest right now. So, of course, let me know your comments down below. What do you think is going to happen with the William Nylander situation? Do you see him coming to terms here with the Leafs on a bridge deal, or do you think it's inevitable that it's likely going to end up in a trade? And I guess only time will tell here if there's anything to all the different scouting people that have been spotted around the league kind of checking in on the Maple Leafs. If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.